to Tech Now TV. Today we're going to look at classes in that. So that classes and what object. Okay, good. So before we begin with the sample code, let's look at the definition and some details about that classes. So we say what is a class or that classes an object. So as you can see, I have a small note here to give you a fair idea before we start with the practicals. So we say that classes are what? Blueprint of what? The object. So objects are basically, if we take in object in real world, we can say example of object can be, example is a car is an object in the real world. We can say tree is an object in the real world, and we can also say probably a student is what? An example of an object in the real world. So anything we can think about in the world can be an object. For example, we can say the planet. Planet can also be an object in this form, or probably what a house. So dog, house, car, whatever you can think about, it's simply what? An object. So if you see this, is not really a big word, but just a simple meaning, okay? So blueprint of an object. So if we say blueprint means it is what? A depictor of something that have properties and probably actions, okay? So we say a class can contain fields, and this field can be easily what? A reference variables. We can have a function or method inside the class, and then we can have a constructors and then other stuff. Okay, so we say then what is this? It's simply what? A wrapper that binds or encapsulates data and function together. So class is more or less like having data and functions in one word, in one block. That is very simple. So let's be let's go straight into the what? Into the example code. Okay, so let's first check how we can define classes. Okay, so let me clear this code. Yeah, I just wanted to run the sample code to see everything is fine. Okay, good. So everything is fine. But here, let me clear this. This is not what we are going to do. I was just trying. Okay, so let's say we have our main, and then let's say we want to define a class. So let me say definition of what? Of definition of a class. Very easy. Good. So in order to define a class, we need to know the class what name, and here which object are we going to actually do the blueprint on. Let me say let's use a student for this example. So student is going to be the object for this class. Okay, so first you start with the class keyword and then the name of what? Of the object we want to do the blueprint on. So student, that's the name of the object, and then we have the curly bracket open. So this is pretty much simple. This is how we define what? A class. And if we are looking at classes, I said we need to have what? Properties and what? And actions for the class. And what are some of the properties of a student? So for example, let's use few examples. We can say a student can have a name, and that is a variable for us in programming, right? So we say, let's say std, that is student name. Very easy. So student name, and then I terminate this. That is in programming form. So in the normal object, we have the student name. In programming, is going to be a variable, and this variable is simply what? The field. Okay, so then we can have another property of a student to be what? The age of the student. So student age like this. Okay, student age. Okay, then what other fields or properties can we have? Maybe student roll number. Yeah, let's just add this. So maybe student what? Std student what? Row what? Roll number. Okay, in which row is the student? So student roll number. Yeah, because of the variable naming convention, I just keep it very short. Student row what underscore number. Okay, so these are the properties. Then what actions can we have? And these actions are simply what? Functions or a method. So let's say we want to define class functions or methods. So defining defining class function, very easy. And these functions are basically the what? The actions of the object. So for example, actions of an object can be uh this can be, let's say we want to show one action can be what? For example, a student can what? Can study, right? So we can have a student can study, and then a student can also sleep, a student can also eat. So all these things can be a function within our class or a method, right? So for example, I would say uh, std student, or let me say simply study, study, right? So study like this, okay? Study like this, and then a function. So we have this. So this can be what? The action of the student, right? And then we can have a student can also do what? Probably a student can also sleep. Yes, so these are actions. And we can also show student information within the function. So this, for example, I will say student what? Let's show student information in this class. So we say show student info. Okay, very simple, right? Show student info, and it's also another word function inside the class. Very easy, very easy. Okay, so if we really want to show information of what? Of the student, what can we do? But before that, we need to actually have an object of this class. Object of what? Of this class. Okay, so inside the main, now we have all these properties, and we have these actions. Okay, and then here, before we can actually call this class, we need to have what? We need to have the object being called here, or an instance of the object here. Good. Of the class here, sorry. Good. So here, what we can do in the main is to first have what? An instance of what? Of the class. And that is basically what? Creating an object. So let's say we want to create an object. So creating object, let me keep it this way, creating object of the class, or creating object of the class student. The class is what? Student. So student, right? Okay, so to do that, how do we gonna define this here? We use the var, and then we have, it's just a variable. This is reference variable. So let's say std student, and this student will be assigned to the name of the class. So in that, or in Java, we use the new what? The new what? Keyword to call the name of the what? Of the class. But what we should know is in that it gives us the flexibility in order to ignore the new. So you can keep it like this. But in Java, you need to keep the new, okay? So this is what? An object of this class. And this object can help us what? call the properties and also the actions inside our class. Okay, so for example, since we have this, you need to have a round bracket here. Perfect. Since we have a variable std that has been assigned to the class to be an object, we can now call the properties inside the class. How do we call that? We can call it by first using the variable name that is std student, then we use the dot, and then one of the properties. So we say the name, right? Okay, so name here, and then we can also call other what properties. For example, like the age. We have the name now. We can also call the age. So std dot what age is here, and then we terminate. We can also call another property std dot what property do we have again? The row. Okay, we have the row. Perfect. So I have called all the three uh, properties inside the class, and let me terminate this. Perfect. Okay, let's see what happens here. But uh, but let's look at also calling what calling or accessing or the method or action inside the class. Okay, so this is basically now because we have not assigned any values to this these objects or variable referencing. Okay, so to do that, let's say here we're gonna have a name assigned to this. Okay, so let's say we're gonna assign a name to this, and in here we say Ben. Okay, good. And then that is assignment we've done for this. And then for the age, let's say the student age is what? It's 19. Okay, this is an integer, so it shouldn't be in a double quote or a single quote. Okay, then the student row, just a row number. So here we can have maybe the student row is this, or maybe to be in a normal way, let's say student row will be 201. Yeah, very simple. Or you can add any number, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is simply the assignment for the object here that we called. Okay, so let's see. After we have the objects of the class, we can also call the functions here to access these ones, right? But let me clear these actions. We're not going to use this, so I clear this. We have show student information. So to show student information, we can say probably we want to show, maybe let's print simply the student's name. Yeah, we're gonna print the student name in the console here. So student name, inside this print statement we have the quotes in here, and here we can say student name is, and we need to student name is, and then we need to reference the property in here. So student name, and then what are we going to assign here? Instantiate it using the dollar, and then the dollar, and then the curly bracket, and then we call what? The property name or the variable here. Good. And this has already been assigned to a string Ben. Okay, here, and we can repeat this in the next line. Let me terminate this. Okay, perfect. Now let's say we want to also print out the student age, right? Age, and then here should be std age. Age. Oh, let me use capital for this. Yeah, good naming convention. Okay, age here, age. Good. And then the next one, we're gonna print out the row of the student. So student row number. Yeah, very simple. Student row number, and here should be what? Std row underscore nu. That's underscore nu means number. Okay, so this is pretty much simple. Okay, but we have not called the function inside the main from our class. So how do we define the accessing class function? So to access a class function, accessing what? Class what? Class function or method. Okay. So to do that, we simply have to do use the name of what? Of the function, and then append it with the variable which holds the function name, the class name, sorry. So xtd here, very easy, the same variable dot the show student information, this one, perfect. Then we terminate it. That is pretty much simple. Okay, good. Let's run the code and then see what we got. Perfect. So now we are displaying the student name is Ben, student age is 19, and student roll number is 5201, which is here. Perfect. Good. So let me glance through this very fast before we end this video. Okay, so as you can see, I say classes and objects are simply what? Classes are simply what? Blueprint of what? Objects. So blueprint of objects. So this is the object name, student, and then it has what? Properties. And this in coding terms simply means what? Variables, right? And then we have the actions and other what? Display information. So we have show student what? Information. So it's simply a function which has a lot of what? Print out. And to utilize this class, we need to what? Create an object of the class. So object of the class here, that is a variable. This is simply a reference variable, std variable, and then it's assigned to the name of the class. And then to call all the properties and then the actions inside the class, we call this and then a dot and then the name of what? Of the properties and then the actions. So we call std dot std name here, student name, std dot student age, std dot student roll number, and then we have assigned the variables. We have assigned numbers to these variables and then a string to the name. And then accessing the class function, we use the same variable std dot what? Show what? Show student information, and that was printed here. So this is very valuable because we can have a lot of objects created out of this same class. So for example, we can have another what? Another class, another object created out of this class. For example, we can have a variable, and then the variable name holding the class will be std1. Since we have std here, student1 is equal to the same what? Class name, this one. So we have another object created out from the same class, and we can assign different stuff to this, like here these variables are the same, but you need to have the one here because it's a different what object created from the same class. And then here I can assign what Peter here, and then the age should be maybe 19, the age should be maybe 40, and then we have the student what row is what 201. Yeah, okay. So if we print this or we run this, it's gonna display these two, right? Okay, so we have this variable std1 std1. Okay, so let me see student, var std. Okay. var std, then we show Peter. Okay, okay, so we need to have this std.peter. Okay, let me run this quickly. Okay, std var std student. Okay, I need to std. Perfect. Okay, good. So what I did was to what also have a printout for this second what this second object. Okay, because this printout show student info was only referring to this what this this this. Okay, and then this is only referring to this variable, and then also appending to the the properties in the what in the class. And then here also was referring to what only this variable, that is st1. All right, okay. So if I want to display the second one, I need to also have another one, either using this or printing it here like this. All works fine. Or I can use another copy of the function by having this one here. Okay, so accessing class function, two, that is equal to what, equal to, oh sorry, equal to st what std1. Good, because this is std what, no, this is std0 and this is std1. So when I print this, Perfect. I should have a repetition of Peter and Peter here. So if I take off this one like this, I take it off and then print this. We should have just a two separate one. So we have the first one that is the Ben and the second one that is the Peter information. So anytime you want to duplicate this, you need to make sure your print out statements also, or the function here, also need to be referenced by its variable before it will print out. Good. So for example, let me repeat this again so that you follow again. Let's say we have the third one, the third object. This object is what? 2. 2 here. So here should be the variable should also be 2, 2, 2 here, okay? And then the print out statement in the function should also have the 2. But maybe different name. This is what? Maybe Danny. Danny here. And then maybe 20. And then here maybe 4041. Okay? 2. Good. So I run, then we can have a third duplicate of what? Of the same class. So this is simple what? Defining classes and having objects and then having a reference what? Variables in here. And then this is pretty much very simple. So defining classes in that is a very easy one. Okay. So next video we're gonna look at the constructors and other stuff in class. So make sure you subscribe and then you turn on the notification bell to receive our next video on that classes. Peace. I'm out.